Evaluating research sources. Hi, I'm Laura Donna Carson, and today we're going to talk about evaluating research sources. A lot of people ask how to determine which sources are good sources to use for a research paper in graduate school. It does differ from institution to institution, so what I'm talking about is about the Cal Lutheran MBA program, whether it's MBA, MPPA, MBA Financial Planning, MSIST, MSCS, any of our graduate programs here at California Lutheran University. We use basically the same standards. The most important thing to be able to do is to tell if an article is scholarly and to find out what to do about newspaper and magazine articles. How do you know which sources to use? When you first approach research, you get thousands of possibilities, and you're going to be tasked with whittling them down and choosing the best sources for your assignment. Your professor is a great source to help you decide what is appropriate. In general, Wikipedia is not allowed at the university. Certainly you can read a Wikipedia entry and that will give you some background on a subject. But when choosing a resource for a paper, we tend to not use Wikipedia because it's open source and anybody can edit it, and we have no way of verifying whether it's correct or not. So that's sort of rule number one. In general, these rules will help you, okay? Usually the papers that you want are written by an academic. Many people ask me, what is an academic? Well, an academic is somebody who has either a master's degree, usually a doctorate, and in most cases the education of the writer is easy to spot. You know they have a PhD after their name or some master's degree level. Other times you have to rely on the reputation of the publisher. Very often we use what are called scholarly journals. Now, scholarly journals are edited, written, submitted, published by academics. And the journal articles that you see have been approved by other academics. So the editor of the journal has approved it, and then they've sent it out to peer review for vetting to make sure that it's accurate. And academics, they don't approve articles unless they meet strict guidelines. This term, peer-reviewed, it confuses people. As you know, a peer is somebody of your level, but in the case of being peer-reviewed, it doesn't mean somebody who is at your level, it means somebody who is at the level of the writer. So often it's another PhD or somebody with a very well-respected master's degree who's been asked by the journal editor to review an article. So a peer-reviewed source is one that has been reviewed by another academic. That's really what you're looking for when you're looking for sources for your paper, okay? What about magazines and newspaper articles? Yes, they are often more current than scholarly research. Why? Because scholarly research can take 1 to 2 years to reach publication. So depending on your topic, you may also need to have the involvement of magazines, newspapers, blogs, government websites, things of this nature. And that's fine. Your professor will give you usually a number of scholarly resources that must be included in a paper. The rule of thumb is that you want at least as many scholarly as non-scholarly. So if you have 3 scholarly and 3 non-scholarly, sometimes that can be okay. You really want to ask your professor what they're looking for. Some professors don't want anything that's not scholarly. But if your topic is very timely or very present tense oriented, you're going to need it to have magazine and newspaper articles. So why shouldn't you have an entire paper based on magazine and newspaper articles? That's a question a lot of students ask me. Well, you have to think about it. Who writes magazines and who writes newspapers? Typically, journalists. So what is the educational background of a journalist? Very often they have a BA or BS, a bachelor's degree. Sometimes, not always. You can be a journalist and have no college education as well. It really depends how long you've been in the field and what your specialty is. So A journalist may or may not have a college degree, and they may or may not consult with academics to check their sources before publication. This means you do not know where the information came from or the year of the source because there's no citation. In academic work, part of the reason we cite is to verify the authenticity of the material being referenced, but it also gives us an idea of how current it is, because in the in-text citation, we have not only the author's last name, but the year. Therefore, you can look at somebody's research and know, oh, this research came from 1997. Gee, a lot has changed since then, and maybe this is not the most current and up-to-date information. Or, look, this citation is from 2015. That's pretty current, and the author's very respected, so that's going to give us a little more credibility. In a newspaper or a magazine, we really have no way of knowing. That's just how it is. Yes, journalists often are backed up by what we call fact checkers, and a fact checker is somebody hired by the magazine or newspaper to check the facts that the newspaper or magazine is reporting, mostly to protect that entity from a lawsuit. They're looking at it from a different angle than an academic would. So yes, they want to know that it's true, but they're looking at different areas of truth. It's not really a subject that we're going to go into for this video, but you also have to know that the fact checkers may or may not have college degrees as well. So when you're doing an academic paper, you really want high-level academic sources. You may use magazines and newspapers in tandem with scholarly work, and your professor will absolutely be the one to tell you how many is appropriate, okay? So using scholarly databases is the first step, and we're going to go through a little Abesco search in our school database to show you how this can work out, okay? So at the California Lutheran University page, we're going to look at a research guide. We're going to go in business. Okay. We're going to go into the databases. And let's just go to Abesco. Business Source Premier. Okay. Oh, it's going to make me sign in. So let's just do that really fast. Okay. So once we sign in, it'll let us into Abesco, okay? And just for fun, let's just pick on financial planning. Okay, so if you start in Abesco and you just start looking, okay, in financial planning, obviously 56,770 articles is too many, right? That's just not even something you can deal with. So there's a couple of things that I do right away when I'm researching. Number one, I look for full text articles because that way I can get them right away. The other thing is it allows you right here to look for scholarly peer-reviewed articles, okay? And then the other thing I do is this goes all the way back to 1898. So I'm going to move this bar and I'm going to move it, well, maybe to 2005. So I'm going to look in the past 10 years, okay? So I still have 4,637 articles. That is a lot, okay? But you see, in the ones that are in a journal, here's the Journal of Accountancy, you know that that journal was edited by scholarly review people. If we were to take out right here this scholarly peer-reviewed thing, then the first thing you start to see, for example, this is from Kiplinger's Personal Finance. That is not scholarly. Again, Kiplinger is coming up 1, 2, 3, 4. That means they publish a lot, right? Investors Business Daily. So this is all the most current from November of 2015. It's giving us things in that order. It's really doing it by date order, okay? So just going through an Abesco search does not mean that the source is scholarly. That's one of the things I wanted to show you. You can get to the scholarly resources really easy by checking scholarly, okay? And so maybe we need to narrow it down, okay? Let's just look at culture, cross-culture. cross-cultural clients. Now, it may come back with 0. Look, nothing was found. So when you do that, let's just look at cross-cultural financial planning. Okay? So here, keeping your financial planner to yourself, Rachel, and cultural differences. Look before you leap. Again, this is the good one, Journal of Financial Planning. But clearing transition hurdles, it's not clear that that's going to be on our topic. So sometimes the search engine gives you a wider range. But here's one, Explaining Financial Management Behavior for Koreans Living in the United States. That's from the Journal of Consumer Affairs. This is very likely a scholarly source that would be useful if you were doing research on that. Now, if you see, it's only given us 3 things, right? So let's take out the scholarly and see what happens. Well, I just wanted to show you this because this is such a good example of why sometimes we do want to go back in and look at the non-scholarly resources. This article on multiculti competence, written by Brad Klontz happens to be the textbook author for an MBA financial planning textbook that we use in this program. So if you recognize that name, the fact that he, an academic, wrote an article for On Wall Street, it's going to give you some pretty good information in that article when you see a name like that. So not all newspaper and magazine is not scholarly. You have to know the author. You have to know the situation that they're writing for. There's a lot of things that you have to evaluate in each source. The more you do research, the better you will get at it, and the more you'll learn to recognize names. I just want to encourage you to use all the buttons on the side here on the Abesco pages, because if you limit to full text, you're going to only get articles that you can read right at that minute. That's going to save you a lot of time. If you click the scholarly and peer-reviewed button, well, it's both good and bad. You're going to not get everything, but you'll get things that are for sure scholarly. And then when you get rid of that button, you'll get also to look at things that might really help you to write an excellent paper. So please do both. And then also play with this button in terms of timeliness. So those are all really, really important things. So to review what we've covered today, you know that scholarly research is written, published, and reviewed by individuals with advanced degrees. Magazines and newspapers are written by journalists. Wikipedia is written by the world. The degree of certainty is not given by the magazines, the newspapers, the websites, the blogs, and the YouTubes, tweets, or other electronic sources that are implied by scholarly resource. So use those scholarly resources first and fill in with others. I hope this has been helpful to you, and good luck writing your paper. Thank you so much.